Texas Longhorns. What happened? How did it lose to TCU? Texas, you're not going to playoffs, you're going nowhere, send home, watch the champion, watch it on your couch, everything, go playing this year, Texas Longhorns. What happened? Old Miss, what happened? How did you lose to Alabama? Go up playing this year, man. Go up playing this year, guys. See you next year, Ole Miss. T-double-L. See ya. What happened?
Kentucky Wildcats, what happened? How you lose to Vanderbilt Commodores?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Week 11 recap. You want to know something funny? Your boy Matt was right on all of his picks. How many times has that happened before on this channel? I don't know, and it probably will never happen again. And also, considering how wrong I've been this year, this is a great achievement. The reason I say it's a funny thing is because I was right on the predictions, but I was also kind of wrong on how the games would go. As most of you know, if you did watch the preview video, I did say Georgia and Tennessee were going to win, but I also said I think they're going to struggle, and they did not. So yes, I was wrong on how the game would go, but I was right on the prediction, and that's got to count for something. Ever since the games ended late last night, early this morning, I was thinking to myself, man, was this the worst weekend in college football up to this point? And I think it was. Let me know your thoughts. I hate to say that because any weekend in college football is not bad, but you get what I'm saying. Game for game, there wasn't too many close ones outside of TCU and Texas. Whoa. Hold on. Did somebody say TCU? I think they did. You know we got to talk about the Horned Frogs. After watching them put a beat down on Texas, and let me emphasize that, it wasn't a beat down. It was pretty much 17-3. I think they're the real deal. We've got a lot to talk about and go over. I hope you guys are excited per usual as me. All right, Matt, blah, shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, say it with me now. Let's get into it. Don't even try to act brand new. You know how we do things around here. We start out with our 11 a.m. games first. And I just now thought about this. It's 11 a.m. to me, but I know to a lot of people watching this video, they're 12 Eastern kickoffs. So it's 11 Central, 12 Eastern. Obviously, you can tell I'm in the Central time zone. So did want to clarify on that. I probably didn't need to clarify. You guys probably already knew that. But anyways, we got to talk about the Ohio State. And when I say we got to talk about them, we're going to spend about 9 seconds in total talking about them because there's nothing to say. This game went how everybody expected. The Big Ten sucks. Indiana sucks. It was going to be a blowout from the start. We know this. I can't speak for all of you, but even as a fan of my favorite team, I don't even like to watch a blowout. With that being said, I also don't want to talk about it. Let's get a move on. Also at 11 a.m., we had Missouri and Tennessee matching up against one another, and it wasn't too close in the second half. Final score wound up being 66-24, and a lot of people were butthurt about this game because Tennessee ran up the score, in which they did. For those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, it was late in the game. Tennessee was up 59-24 with like 2 minutes and some change to go, and they was throwing 60-yard bombs with their backup quarterback. That's why everyone got mad about this. Now, let me make this extremely clear. I've said it maybe once or twice on the channel. I haven't said it in a while. I don't buy into all this quote-unquote running up the score. I like it. If you don't like it, I understand your perspective 100%. It's great to have sportsmanship. But, and I have a big but, I'm going to contradict myself here. I don't think it's necessarily bad sportsmanship by running it up, and I'll explain why. Let's just use this Missouri and Tennessee game for a perfect case and scenario. Let's say you got one team like Missouri, they're rebuilding and they're trying to get better, right? Well, here's the thing, and I want everybody out there to understand this, and I think some of you will. To get better in football, basketball, baseball, any sport, you need your opponent to play at their best. To better yourself, you need to play against better teams in competition. So if you have an Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Tennessee, in this case and scenario, beating the crap out of Missouri, well, technically taking your foot off the gas isn't going to help Missouri in the long run. Because once you take your foot off the gas, you're not trying, and Missouri isn't playing the great competition they need to get used to. You see what I'm saying? I'll try to dumb it down and put it into an even better perspective so me and you can relate. It's the same thing when you're a kid and you're playing your dad in basketball and he's always beating you. If your dad's always beating you, never letting you win, what's that going to make you do? It's going to make you play harder, and when you win, it's going to be that sweeter. On the other hand, if your dad's not trying and he lets you win a game here or there, it's not really going to better you. That's just how I feel better. And also, I want to bring this argument up. Don't you think these second and third stringers for Tennessee, they want to get in there and play too? Do you really think the backup quarterback Joe Milton wants to go in there and take quarterback kneels and just hand off the ball at every play? No, Josh Heupel is trying to get his backup quarterback ready because you know what? He may need him one day. That's one downside of living in 2022, because having your backups go out there and even throw a pass, it's frowned upon. Like, seriously, give me a break. Do you really think Josh Heupel, aka Bobby Hill, is the devil and he's wanting to beat Missouri by 100 points? No. And y'all think Josh Heupel was running it up and has bad sportsmanship? I hate to inform you, there was a guy years ago that went by the name of Steve Spurrier, and he actually wanted to embarrass you on TV and wanted to beat everybody by 200 points. You want to talk about somebody running up the score and bad sportsmanship? That's Steve Spurrier. Let me make this clear. I like Steve Spurrier. I wish teams would run it up because I love to see it. It's entertaining. Once again, I get why most people don't run up the score. It's good to have great sportsmanship and blah, 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 blah. And maybe this is just a competitive person in me, but I don't want to just beat Missouri. I want to destroy every single opponent I face in this life. For example, if me and you were playing pickup basketball outside, if we're playing to 11 and I'm up 9-0, I'm not just going to let you score a point here and there. I want to beat you 11-0 every single game. I want to destroy you. I want you to have no hope. I want you to leave that game feeling terrible about yourself. And Steve Spurrier, aka the old ball coach, was the exact same way, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking y'all a genuine question. Is this cheer class? Are we rooting for our daughters in ballet? No, this is football, man. Who cares about hurting your opponent's quote-unquote feelings? If your feelings get hurt after losing by 100, then do something about it. Why don't you stop the other team from scoring? Just like Steve Spurrier used to say, it's not his job to stop his offense. That's the other team's job. I'm sorry I ranted on it too much, but I wanted to speak on it. Here's the last thing I'm going to say. If you're Missouri and you don't want Tennessee to continue to run up the score, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you stop them? How about that? As far as it goes for the game itself, I thought my prediction was looking like it could be right. I said Tennessee would pull away late, but Missouri was going to play them close because Tennessee players, they weren't going to be hyped up for this game, and I still don't think they were. Missouri did play them solid early on, and it was kind of close, but Tennessee's offense is too much to handle. Big win for Tennessee. They blew them out the water. It's looking like Tennessee is going to win out because they got South Carolina, and I think a nobody coming up. So more than likely, I think Tennessee will get into the playoff, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Moving on to our another 11 a.m. game. Not going to talk about this too much at all. LSU barely squeaks by a terrible Arkansas team with like their 4th-string quarterback. Come on, man. We all saw this coming. Anytime you upset Alabama, pull off a legendary win, you're due for a letdown. The game went pretty much how I expected it. Regardless, winning on the road in the SEC, especially the SEC West, it's always hard, and LSU pulled out the win, and now they're going to play Georgia. I got to remind some of y'all, this is a rebuilding year for LSU. They weren't even supposed to be all too good, and look at where they're at. I think LSU fans would agree with me on this. They have done more than exceeded expectations. It's unreal. Oh yeah, by the way, you want a fun fact? Check this out. Brian Kelly made the SEC championship game before Jimbo Fisher. What do you think about that? Meanwhile, you got Brian Kelly with, what, 50 scholarship players, and he's going to the championship, and he could possibly make the playoff. Wow, wow, wow. Kudos to Brian Kelly. I can't even get over the job he's doing there. I love to see it, I really do. Moving on down here to our 2:30 games, let me talk about this real quick. What about old Vandy, the worst of the worst? I guess not even the dentist, the menace, the black sheep of the SEC beats Kentucky. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first SEC win for Vanderbilt since 2019. This also just goes to show you how overrated Kentucky is and how bad of a year it's went for them. And I get Will Levis, he's going to be an NFL quarterback, but I don't understand all the hype. I really don't. I don't care that he has all the measurables, the size, the arm, yada, yada, yada. He's just not that good. It's just plain and simple. If you're asking me, I'm an NFL GM. I'd rather have Hendon Hooker, but that's just me. Look, I get it. Hendon Hooker is pushing 30, but I don't care. Will Levis ain't that good. Checking out this game, though, it was a very strange one to watch because it was one of the first times In a very long time as an Alabama fan, I'm watching an Alabama football game that doesn't even matter. Whoa. Hold on. I know what all you're saying. Well, Matt, you're sounding like those entitled and spoiled Alabama fans that you're always criticizing. What do you mean the game didn't matter? Look, man, I'm just being real. The game didn't matter. At Alabama, we have a standard where if we're not playing for championships, the year doesn't matter. That's not being entitled and spoiled. That's just a fact. And it's not just Bama fans. Let me ask my Ohio State fans, my Georgia fans watching this video. If you don't win a championship, that year doesn't matter, correct? Four-year programs like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and I guess maybe still Clemson, it's championship or bust. I'll leave it at this, and maybe some of my Bama fans, you can relate to me on this. Let me know in the comment section. It was a weird game to watch. Of course, I want to see Alabama win, but there was nothing on the line. Even if we beat Ole Miss, we're not going to the championship, so it's kind of like, we're playing for nothing. Regardless of how I feel, Alabama still had to play in a tough game, in a tough environment, and they pulled it out 30-24. And maybe this will make some of my Bama fans feel better. I don't know how you could watch this Ole Miss game, watch any game this year, and still want to even have a chance to go to the college football playoff or the SEC championship. Alabama can't even compete with Georgia. It would just be the same thing as the national championship last year. Bryce Young doesn't have any wide receivers and no O-line. The offense is so up and down, it's ridiculous. If we didn't have Bryce Young, I firmly believe this, we'd be 5-5 this year. I know this wasn't a hyped up game like Alabama, Tennessee, so there's going to be a lot of you watching this recap that didn't watch the game, but I'm going to let you know right now, Alabama was extremely lucky to win. This game was how Alabama's entire season has went so far. It comes down to the last play. If Alabama gets a good bounce here or there, they're going to win. If they get a bad bounce here or there, they're going to lose. And this is the saddest part about this. Bryce Young has never in his career had a bad game at Alabama. He has made some of the most unreal plays, even in this Ole Miss game. He was looking like Houdini himself, and Alabama still had a great shot to lose. That's just what blows my mind. I don't understand how Bryce Young can play out of his mind every single week, and we're barely winning these games, or we're sometimes losing them. You got to give it to the kid. He played out of his mind again. 21 for 33, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You can't do too much more. And the thing about Bryce, and I think every college football fan with 2 eyes can tell you this, it's not so much about the box score, it's the plays he makes. The way he can escape the pocket, the way he can drag out plays, the way he can throw a receiver open, throw it into a tiny window, it's just yells out NFL quarterback. Here's what I'm having a hard time trying to figure out. Is Alabama just not very good anymore, or has the rest of the SEC caught up to them? I continue to go back and forth with that argument with myself, and I'm coming to the conclusion with it's a mix of both. This Alabama team that we've watched all throughout this year, it's so sad and pathetic to watch, you almost can't help but laugh at it. And when I say laugh, I mean laughing to the point where you dang near want to cry. It's just sad. The best word to describe it is disappointing. It's not that I'm shocked. It's not that I'm embarrassed. I'm just disappointed at this point. And I know what some of you are saying, Matt, what are you talking about? Y'all won the game. Oh, Matt, you're being one of those entitled and spoiled Alabama fans. No, I'm not, and I'm going to explain why. If you don't listen to a single other thing I say in this video, listen to this part. This year's Alabama team is so bad compared to other Alabama teams ever since Nick Saban has been there, it's hard to watch. And I mean that. It's really hard to watch, and like I've said, I'm going to emphasize it. If we didn't have Bryce Young, the best quarterback in the country back there, we would be 5-5. I don't know how we would look. Actually, hold on. I know exactly how we would look. Remember, what was it, a few weeks ago when Alabama barely beat Texas A&M on the last play? That's how we would look. And may I remind some of y'all, Texas A&M hasn't won a football game in 6 weeks. They're 3-7. They're one of the worst teams in the country, the worst team in the SEC West, and Alabama was 1 play away from losing to them. This Alabama team is pathetic. And when I say that, whoa, hold on. I'm talking about compared to the standard. I'm talking about compared to other Alabama teams, not the rest of the country. That just goes to show you how great Alabama is, because still with this Alabama team being as bad as they are, they're still easily a top 10 team, and nobody's going to argue that. Right now, if it was announced that Alabama was going to play USC in a week, about 75% of people are picking Alabama to win that game. That's how good Alabama is and how many people respect them. Here's the worst part about this. I got up at like 6 a.m. on Sunday after going to bed at 2 a.m. just to rewatch this game to confirm what I originally thought, and I confirmed it. Ole Miss, yes, Ole Miss, they outplayed Alabama, and they should have won the game. As good as Bryce Young played, Ole Miss had more passing yards than Alabama. They had more rushing yards than Alabama. They had more total yards than Alabama. They was better in every aspect of the game than Alabama. So I know what you're sitting there saying, yo, Matt, how did Alabama win? Because of one player and one player only, Bryce freaking Young. I don't just say this to say it. I don't just say it because he plays for my favorite team. Y'all know him about as unbiased as it gets. Bryce Young is a generational talent, at least at the college level. How he'll turn out in the NFL, I don't know. But at the college level, he's been unreal. The only reason Bama didn't go 7-5 last year is because of Bryce Young. Look, I'm happy we won the game. But long story short, I'm immensely disappointed in this year's team. I'm disappointed, that's the best word to use. I can't believe we have the best player on offense and the best player on defense, and we're this bad. And when I say bad, I'm talking about to the Alabama standard. Compared to the rest of college football, no, we're not bad. It is what it is. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I get sad talking about it, to be honest. We got to move on to our 6 p.m. games. We got Georgia and Mississippi State. Now, this is a good football team. I'm excited to talk about old Georgia. I was wrong in my prediction. I said Mississippi State's going to play them close. That's a toxic road environment. Georgia wasn't going to be hyped up, and Matt was wrong. Now, I did predict Georgia to win the game, but the game went differently than I expected. Looking back on it, why did I think this game was going to be close? Not really sure. I thought Mississippi State, maybe they're due for a big-time win, and they weren't. It's so refreshing as a Bama fan to watch Georgia play because they look like Bama 5 or 6 years ago. This Georgia team is awesome. They are elite, and then there's everybody else. Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, Tennessee, they're great. Georgia's elite. Georgia's the number 1 team in the country, and it's not even close. We got to talk about him. Good old DoorDash Bennett himself returned to his DoorDash ways. He had 2 interceptions. No, I'm just playing. If you watched the game, you know those 2 interceptions, they were not his fault. Well, I guess you could say the second one was because the defensive lineman picked it off, but that was a great play. The first one, it was a tip pass. Outside of those 2 mistakes that didn't even really hurt him too much, DoorDash Bennett, he played good once again. Or you could even say he played great. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm just starting to come to the conclusion that Stetson DoorDash Bennett is a good quarterback. He's played well this year. He just looks so calm, cool, and collected out there. And by the way, I've told you guys this, he's a poor man's Johnny Manziel. If he's in the open field, he's going to make you miss. And to me, at least, that's what has propelled Georgia to an entirely different level. Stetson Bennett playing at this level. You can't ask him to do too much more than 25 for 37, 300 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Yes, he did have 2 INTs, but they weren't really bad ones. Going into halftime, similar to the Missouri-Tennessee game, the game was close. It was 17-12. And the reason for that is because of Kirby Smart. He had terrible clock management. Mississippi State got a lucky, well, it ain't really lucky, but they had a last-second punt return touchdown. You got to give it up to Mississippi State. They tried, but once again, Georgia proves they're bigger, stronger, faster, and overall 10 times better than every single body else. They're looking like a juggernaut, man. I don't see how anybody's going to beat them. Oh, yeah, by the way, I guess I was wrong on this because in the preview, I think I talked about it for legitimately 9 seconds. I picked Oregon to win, but Washington pulled off the upset. Is anybody shocked by this? No. Outside of USC, the Pac-12 just straight up sucks. This was just a game to see who's going to be the best sucker. I mean, seriously, does anyone genuinely care about this? This is typical Oregon. Win and lose to a team you should beat late in the season. By the way, why was Dan Lanning going for it on his own 34 with a minute left and a backup quarterback? You can't even feel bad for teams in this situation. I feel bad for Bo Nix, but not for Oregon. Hey man, I'm all for going for it on 4th down. I like the new era of college football because I never agreed with in the early 2000s it'd be 4th and 1 on the opponent's 45 and 99% of the times other teams, they're punting it. As a kid growing up, I was always like, yo, it's 4th and 1. Why wouldn't you go for it? And now everybody does it. I mean, think about it. If it's 4th and 1 on the 50-yard line, I'd say 85% of teams are going for it nowadays. Back in the old day, the only person that went for it on 4th down was Les Miles at LSU and the old ball coach and Steve Spurrier. And I remember back in those days, everybody labeled them as madmen and they're crazy. But now everybody's doing it. And I don't mind going for it on 4th and 1, but on your own 34 with a minute left to go in the 4th quarter with your backup quarterback? Come on, man. If you're on your own 34 and it's the 1st quarter and it's 4th and 1, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. But the 4th quarter, come on. That was just straight up delusional thinking. Moving on to this game, TCU, what about that? Pulling off the, I guess you could say, quote unquote, upset against Texas. They were 7-point underdogs. And what do you know? Your boy Matt called a game correctly. I said TCU was going to win. Obviously, since I picked them to win, I'm not shocked about this. I am shocked that this was a defensive slugfest. I thought the final score was going to be something like 49 49-45. Nope, 17-10, and in reality, it was 17-3. The only reason Texas had 10 because late in the fourth quarter, TCU gave them a touchdown. Not too much to say about the game itself. It was really boring to watch, if you want me to be honest. My biggest takeaway from this game is TCU's the real deal, and I can't believe I'm saying that. I've thought they were fraudulent this entire year, but no, I believe they're actually a really solid team, and if they make the playoff, I have no problem with it. I think they can compete and even win a game. Unless they're matched up with Georgia, but man, that'd be exciting. What about that? TCU versus Georgia? I'd watch that. I guess what I'm trying to say is it impresses me that TCU can not only win a shootout, but they can win in a defensive game as well. I like their quarterback, Max Duggan. I trust him. He didn't have the greatest game ever, but he didn't make a costly mistake. Well, I guess that fumble late in the fourth quarter was sort of his fault, but the game was already in hand. Yeah, I don't have too much more to say about it. TCU looks good. Quinn Ewers, after the Bama game, I don't know what happened to him. This guy has just not been that great. 17 for 39, terrible completion percentage, $170, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Yeah, goes without being said, rough year for Texas. That is the recap. I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But,